Now, he says, let us come back to the subjects of how the negative emotions arise. As we said, there are 6 major streams of emotion: the prime desire, anger, krodha, pride, muda, attachment, moha, greed, lobha, and I-ness or ahamkara, along with jealousy, which was elsewhere is number 7. From where do these 6 streams come? They must flow from someplace, since they're not the result of your divine nature. So where do they come from? Swamiji says, this is a very important subject. We need to learn it. The origin of these streams is the 4 primitive fountains. All of those streams of emotions come, he's suggesting, from the 4 primitive fountains. One of the very practical ways we can use that comment is to note whenever we feel any of those kinds of streams of emotions. Those are 6 or 7 words that are key emotions, but there's hundreds of other words that are subtleties of those that we all use in our common language. And so whenever we spot any one of those emotions starting to come to the front, starting to want to be expressed, one of the things we can ask ourselves when we say, from where are these coming? One of the things we can do is quickly mentally scan the 4 primitive urges, 4 primitive fountains, like water fountains, the fountains out of which, those 4 fountains, out of them come all of the emotions that we've been looking at. So one of the ways to find out where they're coming from is to quickly scan them and say, how are these 4, or which of these 4 are involved in this surge of emotion? What are these primitive fountains? They are for food, sex, sleep, and self-preservation. All human beings and all creatures have these urges. There's not a very big difference between human beings and animals in these urges. In fact, this is humorous. In fact, seat your dog in front of you and you will find that in some ways you are inferior. If the dog was trained not to eat a dog biscuit, it leaves the biscuit sit there. But you don't have such self-control. Anytime you want, you eat. Dog can be trained. Interesting thought, isn't it? The dog can be trained, maybe we can be trained. But it's a self-training program. Do it yourself. These 4 primitive fountains are the real source of all emotions. If you eat unhealthy or bad food, then how can you recreate good and positive emotions? If you eat junk food, it creates indigestion and many ill effects for your body. Then how do you expect to have creative and positive emotions? We're not talking about vegetarianism versus eating meat. Being a vegetarian is not necessary. But if you are talking about creative emotions, then you'll have to understand something. If you throw a piece of meat on the earth, it will not grow meat. It will only be a source of germs and bacteria. It is dead and lacks a certain life force. But if you throw down some grain or seeds, they will sprout and eventually grow other grains. So there is a difference in the quality of these foods, and you should think about that. There he's talking about food, the first of the 4 primitive fountains. Doesn't say a lot, but we don't need to hear a lot to give us something to chew on. But it's a perfect example. It's a perfect example. You watch anything that happens, you can just pause and say, wait a minute, what just happened? In the context of emotions and the 4 functions of mind and the primitive urges. So we say, well, I didn't get up and chase the wasp down. It looks like, well, I didn't make a decision. You pause, you say, wait a minute, no, a decision was made. I, as me who I think I am, did not actively, consciously make that choice. But outside of my conscious awareness, Buddhi made the decision. It said, no, just sit here. Manas is wanting to know, should I rally the troops, the karmendriyas, and make a sound and move motion and grasping and arms and legs, and I looking around, following the wasp. Should I do those things? Should I employ the indriyas? Manas is sitting there ready, like the supervisor of the employees, ready to jump into action. But Buddhi in there says, no, let it go by. And so do any of the employees called indriyas get called into action? No. What do? The arm just comes back down. The legs just relax. The breathing goes back to normal. Because no order was given. The boss did not speak. Now let's say that there was a long time fear of wasps. Because when you were a child, a wasp bit you. And there has become this unconscious war on any wasp or bee. It's me against them because they're out to get me. Now we have the primitive urge of self-preservation. And it kicks in. And all of a sudden, we jump up and chase the wasp and trip on the camera and kick somebody else in the knee when you're going by. And the wasp goes flying off and everything else is a mess. Now, who did that? The primitive urge of self-preservation did it. Now, the way in which it did it, it formed the cloud bank of ignorance through which Buddhi has to look. Buddhi's sitting there looking out through this cloud bank of ignorance and past conditioning. So did it make a decision to jump up? Yes, well, it did. It made the decision. It's not that Manas made the decision. Buddhi made the decision. But it was clouded. It had bad data. It wasn't able to give a complete, accurate, correct decision. So if it had been able to listen more deeply, more quickly, it would have detected the fact that there's an old conditioning in there that says automatically, self-preservation, automatically jump up and chase the wasp. But the clouding would have seen that, would have not been so strong that it missed that and just acted, but it would have also heard the other part that says, no, you don't need to disturb everything that's going on. The wasp is going to fly through and just go away. Or at least let's just sit and wait. And so Buddhi would make that decision. So it's training Buddhi to watch more closely. You know, what's the job of the four functions of mind? And that's why we want to know that. So it's realizing, no, the job of Buddhi is to make good assessment, good judgment, good appraisals of the situation, so it can discern between things and then make good decisions. If it's getting bad information, if the boss in an organization, if they're getting bad information, it makes decisions, but it's based on not good enough information. If it's trained well, then it's going to say, give me more data than just the self-preservation response that says wasps and bees are bad. When it happens like that, in effect, though it's still operating through Buddhi, because Buddhi's operating through a cloud bank, in effect, the habit pattern itself is driving the action. It's as if Manas is listening to that childhood experience of getting stung by the bee. And so Manas isn't listening to the wisdom of Buddhi. Even though it's actually Buddhi that's making the decision to jump up, it's doing that through the cloud bank of not seeing clearly. So the effect is that most of the time, or often, we're simply acting on habit patterns. So it's as if the data that's stored in the chitta just the habit patterns is driving much of what we're doing. Instead of buddhi being trained to really pay attention to the whole thing and make really good, clear, quick assessments. Such as, let the thing fly through and see where it goes. And Swamiji elsewhere talks about how we coordinate. He describes that this word nirodha, of the definition of yoga in Yoga Sutras, yoga chitta vritti nirodha, that nirodha has to do with the coordination of the four functions of mind. And when those four functions are really working well together, that allows the nirodha to happen, which allows the center of consciousness to be revealed.